What's up, everybody? It's your boy Season. So today, fresh out of Tamashii Nations 2024, we're going to be taking a look at the Metal Build 00 Quanta Full Saber. Now, this was a Tamashii Nations exclusive. I want to say that the event ended last week, if I'm not mistaken. So I was able to get this in pretty quickly. So we're going to be taking a look at that today. So let's not waste any more time. Let's go. So let's take a look and see what we've got inside here. Now, I don't expect too much different. Of course, here we got the manual, okay, for the 00 Quanta. So we've got that. Let's see. So, of course, you got the GN Sword 5, all this stuff here. And then you've got the GN Sword 4. You've got the joints here for the full saber. This is the big, the big crux for me is this joint right here. So we've got that there. We've got the new stand. So it's pretty much just like the old one, except for it's a different color. Now I will say that this blue is more of like a purplish blue. It's blue with a hint of maybe like white or purple in it, to where I think the original 00 Quanta had more of the like cobalt blue that we saw in the movie Awakening of the Trailblazer. So you've got that stuff there. You got, looks like you got some minor GN swords there that probably go on the GN Sword 4. So we've got that. You got the joints here. You got the hands here. All right. So we've got that there. And then let's take a look here. Let's see. All right. So of course we got the 00 Quanta right there. We've got the stand parts here and here. The GN Sword bits. Hopefully I don't break those holders like I did with the original. So you got that there. And then let's take a look at this guy. Ooh, okay. And so now we've got the 00 Quanta Full Saber. Now, I'm not expecting too much different out of this one. I don't know if this is gonna be a full review, as I just did the original 00 Quanta, and I expect a lot more of the same with this one. So as far as articulation and everything, I don't expect it to be anything different. But you've got the 00 Quanta Full Saber there. Looks very, very similar. The colors are slightly different just in the blue. The blue seems to be a lot lighter than the original, but of course we will do a comparison with that there. So that's what we've got for the 00 Quanta. So and then we also have the little GN thing for the GN bits. So we still have that on the back. That's just taped in there right now, but I'll cut that out here shortly. All right, so that's pretty much what we have. So now we'll take a look at the manual next. So let's take a look at this manual real quick. So I'm not expecting anything too different from this one. It pretty much is just a recolor, and then you have the extra parts to make the full saber. So of course this is your parts count here. And it's going through your hands and all of that here. I'm not seeing anything out of the ordinary. Now the thing about this is, when I did the original 00 Quanta review, is that I never felt that one was complete. And even though I'm glad that we're finally getting a full saber, I think it's kind of messed up on Bandai's part to not give the original buyers of the 00 Quanta the ability to make the full saber from that backpack. I think that that's kind of messed up, because really that joint is not that big of a deal. The fact that they are making it to where we have to buy this one, I don't really like that. I understand it's a business. I understand that you want people to buy the new stuff, but I just don't like that as a consumer. I think that that's kind of shady. So, but you know, you've got that going on here. I'm still not seeing anything that's super crazy here. It's pretty much looking the exact same. Now, I do expect this one to be a little bit more sturdy, because the fact that this one cannot do the full quantum burst like the original one can. So if you remember, I I said a lot in that review that parts were falling off all the time. And so I think the fact that this one cannot do the full quantum burst is probably going to help it from that standpoint when it comes to loose parts. Even though you can do the semi-quantum burst, as you can see here and here, you cannot take all the pieces off. So I think that'll kind of help with its sturdiness here. So, and we've got that. All right, so that's what we've got for the manual. Now let's take a look at the figure itself. All right, so let's take a look at some of the detail on this guy. So he does look very, very similar to the original. I don't see really any major differences other than the color palette. The color palette is slightly different. Of course, we will get out the old 00 Quanta and do a comparison with that. I'll be interested to see how that goes. So you still got the 00 Q in there. This will still light up. Now, based on what I've seen, it does not light up any of the other parts. So in essence, this is pretty much just a recolor. So, you know, that's unfortunate. I would have liked all the GN drive bits on here to kind of light up, but it looks like they did not do that. So we've got that there. I will say that for the red parts, it does look like it has a more purplish tint on it here. So we'll take a look at that. Yep, a lot of it is looking very, very similar to the original 00 Quanta. It's interesting because since I only did that review like 2 or 3 months ago, that one is kind of fresh in my mind as far as the differences are concerned with the original, and I'm not seeing too much to my eye, but it does look good. The 00 Quanta has always looked good to me. I like it better than the Exia. I've said that pretty often when I'm comparing the two. I just like how this one looks compared to the Exia, and the fact that just personally, I'm not into melee suits all that much, and the Exia is more, it has like a bunch of swords and all that, to where this one has a little bit more weaponry as far as guns and everything. Yes, it definitely has swords, but you know, it has some guns as well, and so I do like that. All right, so that's what we've got as far as the detail part. So now let me get out the original 00 Quanto and we'll take a look at that next. All right, so let's take a look at the comparison between the original and the new full Saber. Now, can you spot which one is which? So on the right, we have the 00 Quanta full Saber. On the left, we have the original 00 Quanta that came out in 2016. So based on how they look almost identical. I would say that the middle part here with the 00 Q in there is slightly brighter than the original. The yellow parts in here are practically the same color. The only really difference is the color palette. You see with the decals, it's pretty much the same. I don't see more on the original than the new one. It's just that it's a different color, to where in the original, they were blue decals, to where on the new one, they are gray. So that's really the only difference I see. Let's take a look here. I don't really see anything else that really is that different. Nope, it looks exactly the same. The decal is slightly different on the new full Saber as far as this line here versus how that decal goes on the original, but I'm not seeing too much difference here. So really the only main difference is having the GN Sword 4 and the color palette. This is more of a purplish blue tint on the 00 Quanta full Saber. The original is more like we saw in the movie, so it's a darker blue. It's more of a cobalt blue. So I don't know, I would say that that was probably mixed with white for the 00 Quanta full Saber. Now, why did they not do it the exact same? I think that the reason why they didn't do it the exact same is because then there would be no reason to get it other than the full Saber. You could have just released that as an option set and we could have had it for the original. And I will get into my qualms with that later, but that's what we've got as far as the differences. I would say that the white on the new full Saber is a little bit brighter than this one, but not by much. I wouldn't say that it's noticeable all that much. Now, of course, I've got a ton of bright lights here, but I would say that that's probably another big difference. So it's really just the color palette that they use for the new one versus the old one. So that's what we have for that. The reds on the original are darker. This one has more of a purplish sheen on the red, so it's almost like a translucent pink type of color that you see on the red there, but there's not too much of that. And that's pretty much it. I'm actually surprised that there's not really that much of a difference. I would say that there was more difference between the Destiny Gundam Soul Red and the original than these two. This is pretty much just a color swap. All right, so that's what we have as the comparison between the two. Now we'll take a look at the accessories for the 00 Quanta Full Saber more closely. So let's take a look at the accessories for the 00 Quanta Full Saber. So first, this is the back joint for the 00 Quanta Full Saber. It has the connection point for the GN shield and the full saber. This really is the big difference, and this is the joint that you would have needed for the original. Now, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show you the difference between this one and the original. So this is the original here. I can bring it into focus there. So the difference between the original, which is this one, and then the full saber one, the design of the backpack is slightly different, okay? So you got that, you got the double hinge versus the one hinge. The hinge looks like it's almost exactly the same. So really, in order to make this for the original, you just would have had to have had this part, it looks like. So I may try to put this on the original and see if it works, even though apparently it's not supposed to work, but we'll take a look at that a little bit later. So the color is slightly different. You've got the GN drive back here. So it's relatively the same. With that. Now the way that these two are connected is slightly different, to where this one is plug in here to where this one is connected at this bottom part here. So that even though that hinge moves up and down, and even though it looks almost exactly the same, it looks like the connection point is, but that could have been a slight modification there. So that's what the back part of the full saber is. Then you have the GN shield. So this goes on his left shoulder. It looks pretty much exactly the same. I would say the only difference, as a matter of fact, I can lift this part up here, pull this little sheet out. So the only difference is the translucence of the green bits here is slightly different compared to the original. Let me bring the original in there. And so I would say that this one has more of like a purplish hue on it. And even though the sparkles are in there just like the original, but there's kind of like a sheen that goes over this, to where this one is more translucent as far as you can see right through it. But it's pretty much exactly the same outside of the colors. And then of course the back hinge that I talked about earlier. So that's what you have for the GN shield. And then you have the little battery pack that goes into the GN drive. So this one looks almost exactly the same as the original did. You just have to pull this little tab out here. All right, and then you can turn this on just like that. So it looks relatively the same. I don't really see any difference. We can actually Then next you have the GN Sword 5. So you do get this one as well as the GN Sword 4. So I imagine that this will work just like the original one did. So you can take that, pull that down. There's kind of like, spin that around. There's your gun mode there. Let's see if I can get that to focus. So there's your gun mode there. And then of course you have the sword mode. So it's exactly the same. Let's change that way. So just outside of the translucentness of the green parts there, it's pretty much the same as the original 00 Quanta. So not really any difference there. And then this is the GN4. So this pretty much is the reason why you're getting this. This is the reason why I considered it not to be complete, the 00 Quanta. So this is the full saber. Now this looks like it can pull apart. So you can actually pull this apart like this, and you can use this as a blade. There'll be a little handle that you can put in here. So what you can do is you'll take this piece here, and then this will slide into here like this. All right, and then the 00 Quanta can kind of hold this part here as a handle, so he can use that. Also, you can put a little adapter in here Now there actually is, you can use this for the Australia 2. There's a little adapter piece that comes with the Australia 2, and you can put this in there and then you can put it onto like the knee part of the Australia 2. So that's something different for the Australia. Of course, I don't have the Australia, or I would show you, but yeah, so you've got that part. And then you have the GN blades for the GN Sword 4. Now, on top of these being kind of the blades for the GN4, they actually can be used separately as well, and they've got a couple of different configurations. So first, what you do is take this and put this down like this, and then you would grab the GN4, and then you have an adapter. It's this piece right here. So you would kind of plug this in like that, and then this, you can put this in here like this. And so you kind of have this configuration. So you have a lot of different configurations that you can use for these GN sword parts here. So you do get 4 of these. So, and they all pretty much look the same. Let's grab the other one. So yeah, they look like they're pretty much exactly the same. So you do have different configurations for the GN Sword 4. So we'll take a look at that next. So in order to create the GN Sword 4, what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this, put this back together like that. We can actually take this out. So what we'll do is we'll pull this out. Here's that a little adapter piece, so we'll put that to the side. Now we're gonna take these GN sword parts. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this and push this in here, and this will rest there, and then we'll take this one, do the exact same thing. So we'll take this. Now this part actually does slide in here. So you've got that, but you gotta kind of put some pressure on it in order to get this to go in there. There we go, just like that. So that is your GN Sword 4. And of course you can put them at the bottom as well. All right, so in order to put these 2 extra ones on, we're gonna take this, you're gonna have it, this is another adapter that you have probably about 3 or 4 adapters for the GN Sword 4 and 5. So you got quite a bit going on here. So we can do this, go ahead, put this in here, and then you can take these, and these are supposed to slide in on these like this here, and do the same with this other one. Oops, there we go. All right, and so there you go. So you got those, so you can use those there, or you can take this off. So that is your GN Sword 4. So you've got quite a few different things that you can do with this guy. So if you don't like this look, you can take this off. So we can pull these off again. All right, and then go to the other adapter that we used. So now we have the other adapter that we used. We can take that, put this one back on here. All right, like that, and then we can take this and then put this in here like this. All right, and so now you've got that look there. You can pull this out. All right, you can also flare these out as well. So this GN Sword 4 is pretty versatile, I must admit. So I could see why they wanted to sell this one separately, because you've got quite a few things that you can do with it. So, but that's what you've got pretty much for the GN Sword 4. So now what we're going to do, now that we're pretty much done with accessories, we're gonna put all this stuff on him, and we will do that next. So there you have him in all his glory, the 00 Quanto full saber. It looks really, really good. He does have a lot going on, but all in all, he can still stand. I do like the fact that he has all of his weapons on, whether that's the GN Shield, the GN Sword 4, the GN Sword 5. He's got all of that on him. He's even got the dual blades here that I put on. You can also have those attached to the forearms. There's quite a few things that you can do with this guy here, but he does look really, really good. I would say that even during putting all this stuff on, he still had a couple of pieces, mainly like the forearms here, the forearms on the other side. When I was putting the stuff on him, those still do come off. So it does look like he still has some loose parts, even though he cannot do the full quantum burst. And that's a little disappointing, but I'm not that surprised considering he can still do the semi quantum burst. So, you know, but he does look really, really good. He doesn't really have any problem standing or anything like that as far as that. But I do like the fact that he can hold all of his weapons without having to kind of put a lot of the stuff away. So I do really, really like that. So for the hinges on him, so he's got the two hinges for the GN Shield and the GN Sword 4, but this hinge is pretty versatile, so you can move this. So you can move it that way, you can move it this way. You know, you can also move this, so if you want this in the front, you can move that there. If you want it further to the back, you can move it and kind of move that down that way. So you do have quite a bit of options with that. And I imagine you can do that for the GN Sword 4 as well, especially considering there's not as, the GN Sword 4 isn't as bulky, especially without the blade stuff on him. So he has all of those things as well. So that does look really, really good. So I'm really impressed with it. Now, is it worth getting the entire mobile suit over again? Because this technically is the second time I bought the 00 Quanta just to get that hinge. Well, we'll have to wait till my final thoughts to get into that. But overall, I think he looks really, really good. The colors look good. All of the weapons, the fact that he can hold all of that is really, really good. So now we'll do his semi-quantum burst. There's not really any reason to go over like the GN bits because that is exactly the same as it was on the original 00 Quanta that I did that video on. So there's not really much to say that's different on that. It's pretty much exactly the same. So, but now we'll do kind of the semi-open burst because I want to see how loose his parts are on that. So we'll do that next. So here we have him in his semi-quantum burst state. They call this technically quantum burst type regular. So we saw this a couple of months ago when I did the original 00 Quanta. This is not my favorite when it comes to the quantum burst mode. I mean, if you're gonna do the quantum burst, you might as well just do the entire thing. But I will say, since all of his pieces don't come off all the way, the pieces are a little bit tighter. So that's actually really, really good for this guy, because that was one of the problems that I had with the original 00 Quanta, was the fact that a lot of his pieces would fall off all the time, to where with this one, not so much. Most of them are in there pretty tight. The only ones that fall off a lot are like this shoulder piece here, because these two pieces are connected together. So a lot of times this piece will fall out there. But other than that, pretty good. So I will say that they kind of fixed the problem of the original, but I think that just had to do with the fact that you have to take all the pieces off. So of course they're not going to be in there super tight. So, you know, but that's what you have for this. Not my favorite form, but you know, it will do okay for this one. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring out the original 00 Quanta, because my issue with this whole thing is the doggone backpack that it has and the fact that it will not work with the original 00 Quanta. So I'm gonna pull that out real quick and I'm gonna take a look at that and see if I can get that to work. They already said that it won't, so I don't expect it to fit or anything, but I'm gonna at least try. So we'll do that next. So I brought out the original 00 Quanta here on the left. So I wanna see what's so special about this full Saber backpack and why it won't work with the 00 Quanta, because pretty much this thing is almost identical. Some people say that The full Saber is slightly slimmer, but I don't really see it. It looks literally exactly the same to me. So I don't know what they're talking about with that, but let's take a look here. And we're gonna pull this backpack off, and I'm going to see why this won't work. Give me a second here. All right, so of course, I pulled the battery out here. So what I'm gonna do, let me pull this out. We'll put this back in here. And then let's move him to the side. And then let's take a look at this original. So it doesn't really look, to me, it doesn't really look that different as far as the battery is concerned. So let me see. Let's see. All right. I don't know what they're talking about. I don't know what they're talking about, that it doesn't work. Okay, all right, let me do something real quick here. So the thing is, can I get this over? I might, okay, there we go. So it looks like we can kind of do this and then move this over. All right, now let me get out the full Saber. Now this is all the stuff from the full Saber 00 Quanta, but I wanna see what is the problem. And, okay, let's put this back on. Okay, now, all right, so we know that it works. This is wild to me. Let me move this back here so we can see this. So as you see, that backpack works perfectly on the original 00 Quanta. So the reason why Bandai, this is gonna bring a rant out of me. This is ridiculous. Okay, so there's your 00 Quanta full Saber. This is with the original 00 Quanta. Okay, the original backpack works, or excuse me, the full Saber backpack works with the original 00 Quanta. So now with the original backpack, let me pull that out real quick. I want to see something. So let me pull out the original backpack here. Now, the difference between the two really is the fact that you don't have the double hinge here, okay? And this you can't really pull out of there. So compared to how they did that. So it looks like they've kind of updated the detachment parts for the full Saber versus the original 00 Quanta. But the thing is, with this backpack, you should be able to put this in the option set. And I'll get to that in final thoughts because I'm not happy, because now that I know that that can work, okay, like, that is not good for Bandai. But now I will say that the coloring is a tad bit off versus with the original, but not by much. I wouldn't even say it's that noticeable, okay? So even though the original 00 Quanta is a little bit darker blue than the full Saber, once you put the full Saber stuff on, when I'm looking at it, I can't really tell that the blues don't match on it. I mean, it's a lighter shade here. If you compare this part here to this here, it's a tad bit lighter, but not by much. So you absolutely could do an option set with this. There is absolutely no excuse that you couldn't do an option set with this. So I wanted to see if it could work. And now that I know that it can, of course, this is not going to affect my final score or anything like that, but it does look good even with the original 00 Quanta on there. So them saying that it can't work, that is false. However, the problem is that you do need the full Saber backpack. Now, if you're telling me that you can't get this backpack for $50 or $30 or whatever, and make it to where the colors actually match more proportionally with an option set, that's just absolutely false to me. So there's absolutely no excuse why Bandai doesn't do that. All right, but anyway, I'll get more into that in final thoughts. So now that we've seen
that it can work with the original 00 Quanta. Now let's get into final thoughts.
So, last thoughts on this guy. You know, if you've seen my original 00 Quanta review that I only did a couple of months ago because it was a viewer request, you know that I was extremely waiting for the 00 Quanta Full Saber. We probably should have got this probably 6 years ago. Unfortunately, we did not. Was it worth the wait? I don't know if I would say anything is really worth a 7 to 8 year wait, but I think overall, I think it does make subtle improvements upon the original 00 Quanta. Now, the color, you can kind of take it or leave it. The original 00 Quanta is more like it was shown in the movie, and so it has a deeper blue than this one here. I don't necessarily think that that's a bad thing, but it is slightly different. So the color tone, the color palette is a little bit different. And to be honest, that's to be expected considering that this mold is 8 years old. And so, you know, I'm sure that different techniques on Bandai's part has been, you know, improved and things of that nature. However, the issues that it still has some glaring issues, mainly that, especially once you do the quantum burst or the semi-quantum burst mode that this one has, then you start getting the loose parts that you had in the original as well. Specifically in the elbows, I would say those are probably the most fragile. Once you kind of try to separate that for the semi-quantum burst state, it's almost like the seal is broken as far as the glue and stuff is concerned. Everything else seems to be relatively solid, specifically on the legs and things of that nature. But I've even had like the back heel come off a couple of times. So having loose parts with this, and I think that's just part of the 00 Quanta gimmick. I would probably say if they were going to do a 00 Quanta Full Saber, to just get rid of that quantum burst mode altogether, if specifically for the Full Saber, because you need this to be a little bit more sturdy. Is it a huge problem or something that I would say that you don't want to purchase this specifically because of that reason? I would say no. I would think overall it's still very, very well done. Now, the GN Sword 4 is pretty much what saves this, and that's really the difference maker here, because you have so many different options as far as what you can do with the blades for the GN Sword 4 that you can do a lot of different things. You have like a mini gun, you have like this short sword, you have a lot of different things that you can do. And to be honest, when I look at this, it reminds me of the 007G that came out a couple of years ago. It has a really big sword. So, and of course, it cannot hold it under its own weight. I didn't expect it to be able to hold it under its own weight because the GN Sword 4 is so heavy. It does have support mechanisms on here that you can use in order to kind of keep it propped up. Overall, you know, I wasn't expecting much out of there, so there's not really any points taken away for that. But in essence, I think that this is a better option than the original 00 Quanta, just simply because of the GN Sword 4. You have all the options that you had originally with the GN Shield and the GN Sword 5 that you got with the original, but then to add on to the GN Sword 4, I think is really, really good. And to me, that makes this worth it. So I would probably say if I was going to want one or the other, I would definitely go with this one, even though I would say that this one is slightly overpriced. I paid roughly about $370 for this. And, you know, with shipping and all of that, you're talking about, it was a little bit under $4, a little slightly over $4. It was extremely pricey, but I was not going to pass this up. So I would probably say out of 10, I think I gave the original 00 Quanta like an 8.4 or something like that. I would probably give this one like an 8.75. It's not quite in the 9 territory, so it's not perfect, but I do think that it does improve on some of the
problems that we had with the original 00 Quanta. Now, let me get to this option set issue. So my issue with the option set that they've just announced, they just announced it during the Tamashii Nations store or whatever, that they had the event that they had last week, because I think this ended last weekend. So with that option set, you pretty much just get the GN Sword 4 and kind of like the accessory parts for the GN Sword 4, but there is no backpack. Now, the reason why I wanted to take a look at and see if it would work with the original 00 Quanta is because the backpack part of it is fine. I think where the issue is going to lie as far as making it connect to the original 00 Quanta is the GN shield. That connection part has been totally redone. So in order to do a option set to where you could actually use the original 00 Quanta, you would need to include a new GN shield, because that connection point does not work the way it's totally different as far as how it connects. You do definitely have more articulation with the new version of the GN shield, but that's where your issue is going to be, not necessarily the backpack. So in order to do an option set, you would have to get the backpack, the GN Sword 4, and the GN shield, and you'd have to include that in one set. Now, could that be done? Absolutely. And I think it's kind of a slap in the face to not do it that way. I think that the GN Sword 4, they're already at, what are they adding? They're adding like, I think it's like $46, I think, once I did the conversion. It's not incredibly expensive, but you're really only just getting another GN Sword 4. You're not really getting anything else. But to include it with the backpack and let's say the GN shield, you probably could have sold it for maybe like, I don't know, 55, 60, I think. I think you could do that, and then the original owners of the 00 Quanta would be satisfied. I would be satisfied. If they had an option set like that, then I would say there's no reason to really buy this if you have the 00 Quanta. But since it's only coming with the GN Sword 4, unfortunately, in order to get the full Saber in the way that you would need it as a collector, you're just going to have to purchase this. I don't like that. I think it is a slap in the face by Bandai, but in a sense, I do understand it. I don't like it, but I understand it. So, so that's what we've got for the video. Thank you guys for watching. If you guys could like, comment, and subscribe, share it out to your friends who like Gundam, and I really would appreciate it as we're getting ready to go into holiday season here in the United States with Thanksgiving coming up this week. There probably won't be another video till probably right at the beginning of next month. I think there is something that I am working on as far as that is concerned. But thank you guys for watching the video, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.